All right, now it's time for our Insight of the Week. Crimson, what do you have for us?
All right, Lori, we were talking about how angst, we try to pick these feelings because of what we're going through. Yours is a very different kind of angst. I'm going through teenage angst because I have been with two 13-year-olds for the past week. So we're coming from different states, but I really like this quote. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. I mean, is it actually angst? I don't know. I think it's bringing up a friction that angst is the root of, right? Because yeah, it could come off as like parenting advice, but I think it's more about the fact that becoming yourself is so uncomfortable. For me, watching someone I love sit in the discomfort of their life is or learning what life is has been absolutely mind blowing because it's almost like teenage years. You have the physical being, the body of a human, an adult. You have the responsibilities, you have homework, sports, whatever, but then you don't really have the agency or empowerment to do it. And I think that friction is the heart and like the soul of the feeling of angst. I think parents put a lot of baggage of what they wish they had done into that whole mix, and the kids left in the middle of it all.
I appreciate you bringing this quote. This, and particularly this part of Jung's work, the unlived life of parents, goes hella deep. I don't know if you know how deep
Oh,
it
yeah.
really goes through his literature and his teachings. Actually saw an example of this when I was watching Bravo last night.
Always
I was
Bravo.
watching In the City, and Lindsay on In the City was talking about she doesn't have a relationship with her mom. She really hasn't talked to her in like 18 years. 10 years ago they tried to reconcile, but it didn't work out. And she was talking about her experience of being a child living with her mom, and her mom left when I think she was like 5 or 6. And for reference, Lindsay, who had this experience as a child, is now mom to like a 1-year-old. Okay. She's going through her motherhood journey too in this. And she was reflecting on how her mom would say things to her and her brother that would be like, I was going to do all these great things with my life, but instead I had you guys and now I can't do them. And she was talking about how deeply hurtful and traumatizing that was. It was a really powerful moment to watch someone. I thought of this quote because that's what she's talking about. A parent who is basically dropping off their burden and inability to change, to evolve, to grow, which I think is really what I'm going through this week as I'm changing, evolving, and learning how to grow into this segment of my life. And we'll talk about this when we get to angst, but I think part of my angst is there are things that I need to let go. There are visions and experiences and hardships that it is time for me to let go of them because it is not helping me live my life to the fullest. And my kids are watching me do that. And they're learning, what does that mean? And if you have a parent who is telling you that I'm unable to do this because of you, the child, there's a deep hurt there. And there's also a crazy amount of emotional labor that you're dropping off there with that child.
Absolutely. I mean, I hear this so frequently from parents of, I have to work my ass off to give you what you want. I have to sacrifice so much to buy all these things for you. And it really, to say it in the most non-judgmental way, because I don't say this judgmentally, but I think parents say that because there's a lack of respect for the amount of work we put into money, and we want our children to understand the value of a dollar. But I think what children hear when we say that is that you are causing all of this friction and all of this chaos and all of this drama in our lives because I have to work to provide for you. But the reality is, especially with millennial parents, maybe not as much for boomers or previous generations that didn't have access to contraceptive care or reproductive care. We chose our kids, and most of us chose it after we had careers. Most of us went to college. We were already focused on that part of the world. I often say to my kids, my 20s were my selfish years. I went to college, I worked, it was career. I didn't bring kids into the world until I was ready to live that selfless life. I'm not saying I'm some queen and I do it without bitching, but I think when I feel those things coming up of like, I was making good money, I had a great job, then you came along. It's really more about the lack of respect and understanding. I think parents need to be aware of we would be working even if we did not have our children. Our
Right,
children would
for
love
sure.
us even if we did not bring in six figures, if that's where you're at. And that's something we have to come to terms with.
So, with that being said, I think that the other part of this that's missing is the acceptance that we all are individually responsible
Yep.
for living our life in a way that is reflective of a lived life versus an unlived life.
Yep.
And putting an unlived life on your kids, whether you're telling them that it's their fault or you're just existing that way, is an incredible burden to share. And it's one that can be easily, simply rectified by
Yeah.
recognizing the agency of living your best life lies with you, not with anybody else or any other external circumstances. And I know that that's radical, but I think that that's the piece that Jung is really talking about here is that own personal agency and accountability and understanding how not engaging with that impacts those around us, particularly those individuals that we're caring for and we're helping to learn through us how they go and live their life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is so hard. I sat Atticus down the other day and said, with a picture perfect family on TV, it's not that they love each other more. It's not that they have something that we don't have. It's that what we see is every person shows up their best selves, doing their part, doing their job, and in their best mood. And it's perfect, right? And it requires everyone in the system to wake up that way, to get that fairy tale life because it is at the individual level. We all have to do our part in bringing that picture together. Maybe sometimes you shouldn't work so hard. Maybe
Yeah.
you should listen to it. And maybe I should watch Bravo and see this great, prolific moment in TV
No, you
history.
shouldn't. Bravo's dying a death right now, and it's sad. We all loved it for so long, but like talk about identity crisis. I think they're going through it right now.
Ugh.